beautiful friends. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 6 of some of the most influential and impactful books I've ever read. Books that have changed my life and influenced my spiritual journey and my spiritual awakening. One of these books actually was the catalyst for my spiritual awakening back in 2018. I had no idea what was getting ready to happen when I first picked up this book. It was one of those experiences where I kept hearing the title of this book, and it was very loud in my awareness. And so I was like, okay, universe, I hear you. I'm going to order the book. But I thought the book was about one thing, and it actually ended up being about another. I read the book in 24 hours, and my life has never been the same. So if you are on a spiritual journey or are in the midst of your spiritual awakening, or are really desiring to awaken that deeper connection with your divine self and the divine knowing of this life, these are all books that I highly, highly recommend. I've read all of them. I think I've read most all of them at least twice, and I'm sure that they are all books that I will return to multiple times over the course of my life. They are those kind of books. And if you can see, get a sneak peek of my bookshelf over here behind me, I have read a lot of books about spirituality, and these are some of the best. And some of these books are books that you do hear about a lot in the spirituality space, and some of them are books that I've never heard anyone else share about. So I'm excited to share them with you. All right, let's dive in with book number 1, Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. This was the book that was so loud in my universe. I kept hearing people mention the title of this book. So I was finally like, okay, I went online, I ordered the book, it arrived. I thought this book was about past lives. And at the time, I don't really remember what I believed about past lives, but I was past life curious, for sure. And I ended up getting this book and was excited to read it. I remember curling up in bed, and within the next 24 hours, I finished this entire book. I could not put it down. And this book was one of those books that shook the foundation of my entire life. Life before Journey of Souls for me, when I look back, was like looking through a windshield in your car that is dirty. Like it's just caked in dirt, and you can kind of see, but it's like really unclear. It's like trying to see without glasses, for any of you who need glasses or contacts to see clearly. And then reading this book was like clearing off that windshield, and all of a sudden I could see clearly. It felt like remembering things that I didn't even know I'd forgotten. So Journey of Souls actually explores life between lives. So not past lifetimes, but what happens to our soul. What is our soul doing in between lifetimes? And it includes firsthand accounts of 29 people who Dr. Newton guides into a state of deep hypnosis in order to access those memories of life in the spirit world and what happens after death. It explores what the spirit world is really like, where we go, what we do, our soul family, why we come back in certain bodies, how we choose and plan for upcoming lifetimes and incarnations. It is incredible. And what is so mind-blowing and beautiful about this book is how all of these people, nearly 30 people, share things about the spirit world and our soul's journey through this dimension in such similarity. Truly, truly an amazing book. This is the first one. The second one is Destiny of Souls. So if you read this and want more, Destiny of Souls will be your part 2. Okay, book number 2 is Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. I have read so many of his books. He has lots, and they're all pretty short, easy reads. They're all incredible. This is an amazing book introducing you to past life regression. So I started with Journey of Souls, and then I found Dr. Brian Weiss when I became wildly, obsessively interested in past life regression. And I started reading his books. And this led me down the path of knowing that I had to experience this for myself, searching to find a past life regression therapist in the Denver area. I found someone, had my own first past life regression experience, and now here I am 5-6 years later doing that work, which is just incredible. If I could go back and tell myself at that time, Lauren, little do you know that you are going to be guiding these journeys in the not too distant future, it would have, I think it would have short-circuited my brain. I would have been like, what? But anyways, if you were interested in past life regression, if you were on a spiritual journey, highly, highly recommend this book. So a little backstory to Many Lives, Many Masters and Dr. Weiss. He was a traditional psychotherapist, and he shares in this book that up until this point in his career, he really was in a place of distrusting anything that couldn't be proven by traditional scientific methods. So he was very by the book and conservative in his beliefs until he meets this client, Catherine, who he shares about in this book. He shares about his story and his journey with Catherine. So he starts working with Catherine to help her with anxiety and phobias and panic attacks. And after spending about 1.5 years using traditional therapy methods to try to help her with this, he decides to use hypnosis. And when he is regressing her in hypnosis, she actually starts recalling past life memories. And these memories actually proved to be what was causing her physical symptoms in this lifetime. And within a few months, all of her symptoms had completely disappeared. But what was really wild and what really converted Dr. Weiss was that Catherine, when in this deep hypnotic state, she started channeling messages that contained information about his own family and a son who had died years earlier. Information that this client, Catherine, would have had no way of knowing. And that led to a complete shift in his work. And what a gift that it did, because we now have access to things like this book and so many others that he's written. You can also search for him online to find more about his work in past life regression. It's just really beautiful, profound work. And both this book and Journey of Souls actually contain the direct script from the sessions that they're having with their clients. So you're actually getting to read exactly what their clients were saying and sharing in response to different questions in this deep hypnotic state. All right, next up, book number 3, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. You probably know him from his book, The Untethered Soul, which is incredibly popular. Again, I seem to hear about it a lot more than I do this book. However, when I tell people about Michael Singer, I always recommend that you read this book first before reading The Untethered Soul. So the Surrender Experiment is actually his part of his life story. And I think that reading this first helps ground you into him and his life journey and life view before reading The Untethered Soul, which The Untethered Soul is more a guide book sharing perspectives on how to view life in the world, whereas The Surrender Experiment is more of a story. It's probably evident by the title of this book, but it's really about how do we surrender to life? How do we let go of control and surrender to the divine flow of life? How do we trust that? What does that actually look like? This book, like I said, isn't just a self-help guide or inspiration read. It is a first-hand account of Michael Singer's own life and his very own surrender experiment that he went on after this spiritual awakening, where he decided to let go of his own personal preferences and truly surrender to the unfolding of his life. And the story that unfolds is mind-blowingly beautiful and so inspiring. I think about this book often, like probably once a month, whenever I find myself struggling to let go of control and desiring to drop into that deeper space of trusting the unfolding of life more. Highly, highly recommend this book. All right, next up, book number 4 is Luminous Life by Jacob Israel Lieberman. I don't know that I have heard anyone else share about this book, and y'all, if it's not out there in the spaces being talked about, it needs to be. I find myself recommending this book all the time. I first heard him on a podcast years ago. He was sharing about this book, which led to me buying this book. But a huge part of my work, really the foundation of my work, is guiding people home to themselves and their intuition, and really learning to trust that divine knowing within ourselves. And a part of that journey is learning to look for the signs around us and feel the nudges within us guiding us forward, right? What is so beautiful about this book and what he shares in this book is this entirely new perspective on life that is guided by the belief that what we see is actually desiring us to see it, right? There are so many things, so many particles of information around us that our brain could take in at any given moment. And yet we only consciously are taking in a very, 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 very small fragment of that, right? And the belief in this book and what he teaches is that that is intentional, that what we are seeing, we are being guided to see. It is being illuminated for us to see. Our intuition, our divine knowing, the divine knowing of life is guiding into our sight the things that we are meant to see. One of the quotes from the book says, "Anything that catches your eye is actually looking for you. Light brings your awareness to your responsibilities, guides you from moment to moment, and creates a life filled with purpose and meaning." This is one of the most recommended books I give to people all the time. All right, next up, book number 5, Loving What Is by Byron Katie. This is such an incredible read as well. I can say that about literally every one of these books. So in Loving What Is, Byron Katie shares her process, which is called The Work. And it's 4 simple questions. Truly, when you learn the process, it seems so simple, and yet it is so profound. After I first read this book, I found myself using these questions all the time, every day. The little things and the big things in life. I'd be driving down the road and find myself struggling with a thought, and I would remember these questions and I would go back to them, and it's like I could just feel my entire body relax. I could feel this mental shift taking place. Here's the thing with this work. It requires a deep level of honesty with yourself and with life, and yet that is why it is so freeing. It requires you to truly look at life and your reality through a lens of truth, not story. Byron Katie says it is not the problem that causes our suffering. It's our thinking about the problem. One of the examples she gives in this book that has always stuck with me is about should. We often say like, oh, this shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be raining. I shouldn't have done that thing. I shouldn't have said what I said. Or I should have done this differently, right? And what she says in response to that is, yes, it should have. It should have happened exactly the way that it did. You should have done what you did because you did. She talks about fighting with reality, right? And so often when we are caught in a space of struggle, it is because we are fighting with reality, which is what we're doing in those moments when we're like, I should have done this, or I shouldn't have done that. We are arguing with reality. And what she says is that it should have happened because it did. And in that, there's this level of acceptance and freedom that is just so heart-opening. I find myself turning to the work most often when I find myself stuck in judgment. When I find myself making someone else or something else the problem, which we all know sucks. Like, that is a terrible place to be in, simply because it feels so terrible. It doesn't feel good when we are stuck in this circle and this cycle of blaming other people and other things and other circumstances. So anytime I find myself really stuck in one of those patterns, which I can be stuck in for a long time, hello days, weeks of being stuck in those patterns, but once I finally come to and remember her questions and return to them, it's like it finally allows me to find this space of acceptance and to make peace with reality. A beautiful book for your healing journey, which is tied with your spiritual journey and awakening. Okay, last and certainly not least, I saved the best for last. Diana Herself, An Allegory of Awakening by Martha Beck. This book it combines the magic of fiction or fictional story with the deep truths and wisdom of a spiritual awakening. I cannot recommend this book enough. It is fun, it is playful, it shifts your perspective on life in the most amazing of ways, using this metaphor for life and for your spiritual awakening and journey. A friend recommended this book to me years ago. I've read it 2, maybe 3 times now. And when I tell you, like, if I could gift any book to someone in the midst of a spiritual awakening or doing the deep spiritual journey work, this would be the book. Out of all of them, if I could give a book as a gift, it would be this one. I love books so much. And these are some of my favorites that have just changed my life and impacted me. I am who I am today in various ways because of these books. I have linked them all below so you can find them easily. But yeah, I am sending you so much love and goodness and peace on this journey that you are on in the midst of your own spiritual journeying and awakening. Know that there is so much that lies ahead for you, and all of it is guiding you into a space of so much more expansion than you can even imagine is possible for you right now in your life. All right, beautiful friends, thanks for watching this. I hope that you found a new book today, maybe new books, and are excited to explore them. And if you do, I hope that they bring some sense of wisdom and guidance to your life journey. And if you would like to learn more about the work that I do, you can check out more of that below. All right, beautiful friend, I love you so much, and I hope to see you back here soon.